Look at that.
Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for coming on early as well. I really appreciate that.
Well, I was having to fool around with a few settings,
Okay.
so I just did my business without you seeing.
Is everything set up now, or do you want to come back later?
No, and just nobody likes to be the old man it's silent and they're going, just one sec. And can you hear me?
We have had some like iconic musicians who are older than us.
Yes.
On the show, and that's exactly what it is. They get their wives to come over and start like, can you get this? It's awesome. It's hilarious. It's awesome. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I have no children around here right now
to help you.
Oh, yeah. I'm Craig Northey, and welcome to The Music, which is the name of this show.
It is. Welcome. Craig, it's a pleasure. I've been a huge fan for a very long time. I know we talked about Mo Berg earlier, and we're going to probably talk about Mo again. And I know I said this to Mo when he was on the show, but I want to thank you for, to me, one of the best albums in not even Canadian history, just history with Bedbugs. I mean, even, really weird feeling, Nestor just is awesome, but Bedbugs, I could just put that on, and I'm sure I got it back here behind me in the vinyl, and just like front to back over and over and over. So thank you.
Thank you for saying so. I appreciate it. It's nice when it connects like that.
Very, very much.
The funny thing is when Gregg told Mo that his favorite album was Bedbugs. Like Mo,
yeah. That was my favorite part.
Yeah. Mo was that. I think that was the question that Mo didn't appreciate.
Yeah, that's where you had to squirm and get out of it.
Yeah,
I was on that album.
Yeah, well, that's around when I met Mo, somewhere around there.
You guys played together a bit around that time, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I think it was the next record. Okay. We did a tour, Odds of Happiness tour across Canada.
Nice.
Well, Craig, listen, first off, congrats on the new album, Crash the Time Machine. There was also, what was it, Man Machine Poem by the Tragically Hip. And I know Rob Baker worked on, was it the album cover?
Yes, he did. Yeah, Rob and I have a long history of collaboration. We have a band called Strippers Union. And during COVID, we also released a double album, which was ambitious. And no one really knew what happened. No one knows what happens to albums now, do they? They just come out and then they disappear. So we put out wisely. We put all our chips on 29 Black, and there you go. Just nice. Put out a double album. So that was our third Strippers Union album. So in that, on that record, Rob did all the artwork, and he I don't know if people know that he's been part of the artwork on most all of the hip records. Mm-hmm. And he's a great painter. So I asked him to do some illustrations for this one, and he said yes.
Oh, nice. So the question I want to ask, you guys have been around since the late 80s, early 90s is when the first album came out. I know you guys sort of took a break a while ago, and you guys have come back together. What keeps Odds, playing music and coming up with new songs as well, not just relying on some of the hits?
I don't think any of us think, oh, we've already done something good, so why not do any more? You're always thinking creatively about the next thing you want to do. And that urge has never gone away. I don't think it will. So sometimes it's a little fractured because everybody's off doing different things and stuff, and it's hard to get together. We don't all live in the same town. And then when we're all together, it just happens. Why we're still doing it is because we love it and we get along great. And I always say I get sort of giddy and excited still that when I know there's a show coming up.
Nice. You guys have are you guys still on the road? Because I know you played recently in Ontario.
Yeah, it's not the same now. It seems to be on the road. We don't go out for 6 weeks at a time. We go out and do a couple things, go home, go out, do a couple things. So we did play, we were close to you. We played at the Kitchener Blues Fest there a little while ago.
How was that?
Awesome. It was great. It was full of people and they were happy, and it's in a tent. So, you're a child. It's almost a circus, really.
Nice. I remember, what was it? January 2019 at the Danforth, seeing you guys live again before we got into World War II these last 3 years, which was an amazing show. In fact, it's funny because I remember Stephen Page joined you, and I joked that I was just waiting for Tom Wilson to join you on stage, because it seemed like 2018, sort of the second half of 2018 and the first half of 2019 was the 12 months of Tom Wilson joining everybody on stage during that time.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't want him? He's a good vibe, and we've been friends with Tom for a long time too. I think weren't the Pursuit on that show too?
That was Pursuit. It was you guys in Pursuit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so fun.
That was an amazing show.
We did a Good Weird Feeling, our album, at the Horseshoe too, with all those friends of ours as guests, vocalists on some tunes. So it was really fun. I think during the same year, maybe a little later.
So there's a lot of names, a lot of people that we've just talked about in the past 5 minutes only. Tom Wilson, Stephen Page, Mo Berg. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing that everybody sort of knows each other, or if it's a Craig and Odds thing that you get your friends involved in a lot of projects. You get yourself involved in a lot of your friends' projects. Tell me about this sort of theme about friends and friendship that sort of seems to go through your career.
I love that question. I don't know what it is. I think I'm a serial collaborator. I love in music the social aspect of it. I sit in isolation a lot. I do film and making things up, but I love the push and pull and an idea coming out and being able to say that's cool. Can I add this? Or I like that. And different music comes out each time. So amongst all the collaborations I've done, I can't say to me that it sounds like the same thing. It sounds like something else. I mean, if my voice is on it, it might sound more like me. Sometimes my voice isn't on it. But I think it's just something I like. I like that collaborative aspect of being together. Ideas go quickly. There's more ideas. And there's lots of laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is there pressure to perform, like when you get in a room with Mo and Steve and you go, shit, man, these guys have written, some of the top pop rock songs, that, Canadians will sing along to their songs all the time. Do you ever think, I don't know if I belong in this room or anything like that?
Oh man, the imposter syndrome is heavy. I think that's for a lot of musicians. I hope that I'm speaking for other musicians or else I'm alone. but yeah, I think that you always feel like not always, but a lot of times you feel like the weakest link or what am I doing here? But I don't feel that kind of pressure around the people you mentioned because there's trust. And I think that's what collaboration is about. The best ones are where you trust the other person's opinion and And of course, they come with a pedigree that says their opinion is probably pretty good. So you trust them to know whether your idea is not good or good. And if it's not good, you can't really get too uptight about it.
Mm.
You can't.
Well, it's funny. I take it from the other side, which is, to me, to have yourself, Mo, Steven, and Chris. I mean, you have just four iconic, and I'll use the word pop for lack of a better word. I hope you give me some leeway with that. But like I said to Mo, I said, like, Mo to me is one of the best pop writers in history. To me, it's like when I look at like Matthew Sweet or stuff, like, just you guys, the four of you, Matthew Sweet aside, the four of you just write some of the best pop music that I personally have ever heard ever. So to me, it works. Which, dovetailing off that, I mean, how did Explosive Hits Volume 1 come about for Trans Canada Highwaymen? Because I can't wait. Like, I'm giddy when I saw the list of songs as Canadian covers.
Yeah, I think with what we're doing, which is basically playing our own songs together, the bangers, as
the bangers
call them. We play those together. There's a certain, well, what do you do next? I mean, that's fun. It's super fun, but it's going to repeat itself. And then once you go to deep cuts, why are you doing it? So we thought, what's next? And we started thinking about fun projects where we didn't have to put pressure on ourselves to write a bunch of stuff, but that would be unique. And then I think maybe Chris came up with the K-Tel idea, and so we embraced it. And it was COVID, so we couldn't be together. And Odd's record was finished and in sort of post-production. And I think everyone else's, I think Sloan's record was done. And that's the sort of thing with the band, is fitting this in the holes of everybody's plan A. And so we started talking about what the songs would be and what everybody's favorite things were, and we had to have some rules. It was between like 1968 and 73 kind of thing. And just kind of, we gave a little bit of leeway. I think there's a couple outliers, but we just started sending each other guide tracks, and then I aggregated the tracks here, and we had a document about who's done what, and said, we're missing this. What about you play the flute, Stephen? All this kind of stuff. And we collect all the stuff here and then put it all together, and that's what it is. It sounds pretty cool.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to thanks.
Is there a favorite song from that upcoming album of yours that you like?
There's a sentimental favorite for me, which is Bim's Can't Catch Me, which probably wasn't as huge a hit as some of the other songs in Canada, but it still was a big single. And when I was a kid, it was on the radio here in Vancouver, probably more, because he was a BC guy. And he later changed to his actual name, which is Roy Forbes, and has had a long career as a Canadian musician of note and writer. And when I listen to that song, it's that moment beside my AM radio that's beside my bed as I'm going to bed. And he's on there with the Beatles. He's on there because I'm old, and a lot of people like that. I couldn't differentiate when I was a kid the difference between him and the Beatles. They're all on the radio. Yeah. So eventually he was another dad at my kids' elementary school. And that blew my mind, and we became friends. So that song's an important contribution for me. I love playing it.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen. I just off the top of my head, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
And again, but again, I was a Toronto kid, so it's like, I know when I talk to my wife who grew up in Vancouver, like we talk about, again, we grew up in the same time frame as you're talking about, listening to radio as kids. and there's songs she knows from the West Coast by Canadian artists that
Yeah.
I sort of know on the periphery, and vice versa. There's songs that I know from out here that she's like, yeah, I sort of remember that as a kid. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. And organically in music, there was a lot more regionalism
Yeah.
in the past. And, you know, I still have to have arm wrestles over Vancouver punk scene versus Toronto, all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
just like an important arm wrestle. And, you know, I have to practice my arm wrestling. But the punk scene here was really awesome.
Before we started recording, I don't know if you were joking, but you know, you said, "Oh, I don't want to play that song again." Do you have, Craig, are there odd songs that we got to play this again, or do you enjoy playing all of your hits?
Oh my gosh, yes, I do, and I don't have that feeling of. I've never had that feeling. I thank those songs for all they did for me every time I do it. And I don't think I've ever, there's a couple times I may have sleepwalked through them. Like when you're driving to the convenience store and you scare the shit out of yourself because you realize you're there and you don't remember driving there. But, not often. Usually I'm just enjoying every note. I think when we took a hiatus with the band, it made every note more valuable when we returned to doing this. And it made everything more valuable because sometimes you go, I'm really lucky to do this.
That's true. So
when I was saying that, it was in reference to the Highwaymen. Like when you look down at the set list and you see that I'm an Adult Now's coming up and Underwhelmed and Brian Wilson, and then there's your song sitting there. You go, let's just skip it. It's way more fun to play road hockey and say, I'm Jonathan Taves, you know?
Yeah.
It's way more fun to do that.
I hear you. Gregg, are you hearing like a beeping? Or is that just on my? Yeah,
I thought it was inside my head.
Yeah, that's good.
I was hearing it too.
I think it's an alert from my phone.
No worries.
That's all right.
Yeah, but my phone isn't on, so it's coming through my computer.
Zoom catastrophes.
Everybody out there, when it happens, your eggs are done.
Speaking of Zoom,
yes,
you had a story that you shared with us before that I would love for you to share if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, it was Stephen Page. Great little Stephen Page has a live from home show that he does from his hometown. It's no longer in his home; it's in his studio. But he invented it during COVID when we all didn't know what the hell to do, and he built up a big community. And he's on coming up. He's doing show 110.
Wow.
So he's really stuck with it, and it's kind of a unique thing. So I encourage anyone to tune in and check it out. But early on in the first few shows, the whole idea of the Zoom platform for something like that was pretty new. And he was singing a song and he wanted everyone to sing along with him. So he said, "Hey, everybody, unmute." There was about 800 people on the show and they all unmuted at the same time. And the sound was like a wolf pack being hit by a semi-truck being hit by an asteroid. It was so freaking amazing. And he just held up his arms and the whole world was feeding back. And then somebody managed to hit the button to turn everybody off. And he still refers to it as the great unmuting.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Craig, is that a guitar behind you?
What? Why would I have a guitar?
Some musicians look at it.
Hey,
what is that?
This little old 1963 Barney Kessel? I don't know. Does it sound like a guitar?
Yeah.
it does.
It's
out of tune.
You want to play something?
Did you want me to play something?
Yeah, let's play a little something.
Okay. How about I sing something from Crash the Time Machine?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Okay. Should I tell a little story about it?
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Normally Karim asks these questions, but he's like totally dropping the ball right now as the host. But go ahead. Sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just, that little dinging that we've been hearing about the eggs and stuff. That's just Karim sending me telepathic messages, and it's just overloading the Zoom. So surprising that you asked about this guitar. Let's see. Can you hear the guitar now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll talk about, you asked me a question about the song.
So, Craig, what song are you going to play?
I hadn't thought about it. I'm going to play, I think it's the last song on the record, because that's how I party. It's called Somehow in a Dream. And over the course of writing this record, we lost a few important people in our lives. And as you alluded, we have a lot of friends and collaborators. And Gord Downey was one, so you can, when you listen to the record, you can hear a song that might be attributed to the things that our friends went through in that regard. And another person we lost was John Mann, and John was in Spirit of the West. And John and I met when we were about 18 or 19 in the music scene here, and been friends our whole lives. So that was huge. Doug Elliott from the Odds played on John's solo stuff, and our families are really tight. Our children are all, a whole generation of friends. And you talked about friends earlier. So I will say something that we discovered in the last few years is how important that is. Musicians don't have a lot of support systems. There's a lot of new charities and things that are starting to deal with when you run into trouble, because oftentimes you don't make a lot of money and you don't have the resources to handle catastrophes in your life. But you realize the people you met along the way, the people you collaborate with, your friends, are that support system.
Yeah.
And so we'll send this out to Johnny. It's called Somehow in a Dream. Love goes to buildings on fire, and it flies to you. You sleep as the smoke curls around you, and soldiers salute. You're the front man we all need. Your heart is true. We shrink the spaceship and climb in, 'cause we are your crew. We can reach you, we can reach you, somehow in a dream. You're watching TV snow, we're sending in a team. Down the river of imagination, fueled by the beer. Through the white wall, follow the music and tune out the fear. Rest of us are on the outside, but never lost within. Set a course for the harder hearts and let the games begin. We can reach you, we can reach you, somehow in a dream. You're watching TV snow, we're sending in a team. So tell the nightmare clouds to part and beam us down, beam us down. When we land somewhere on the sand, we'll swim out and look at the clouds. Make me laugh at the saddest part. Get me in trouble too. Red lipstick and she smiles at you, throws her arms around you, throws her arms around you. The rest of us are at the party, blowing up balloons. Behind the white wall, hear the band play the whole of the moon, the whole of the moon. We can reach you, we can reach you, somehow in a dream. You're watching TV snow, we're sending in a team. Somehow in a dream, somehow in a dream, yeah.
Come on. Oh, jeez.
Wow. Oh,
Fantastic.
It's a tough one.
that's hard. That's hard to listen to. I can't even imagine.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh.
That's
Yeah, it's getting more
fantastic song.
possible. I had a harder time doing it before, but you know, time wounds all heals, as Nick Lowe would say.
Wow. That's a great song. Just a fantastic song.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It was great to record because of COVID and stuff, and you can sort of mail it around. Kendall Carson played fiddle on it, who had a long history playing with those guys, and Matt Kelly as well he plays with City and Color and Alexis on Fire, and also is a friend of the family, and Jeffrey Kelly from Spirit of the West, John's comrade in arms all those years, sang with me.
Wow. So it's like a duet.
Yeah, well, he sang backing vocals. He's a little
Yeah.
he has some gravitas to his voice, so if you listen hard, you can hear him.
Wow.
Oh, lovely, a lovely tribute. Lovely.
Yeah, for sure. As you can tell, we're not professional, so I don't know how to make this switch into any other questions.
Oh, I love that. I'm not either.
We have a segment, Craig, called Lost Venues. We like to discover places that no longer exist, but hear stories from, venues that either have a funny story, a sad story, a horror story. So I'm curious, Craig, if you have such a venue in mind.
Well, yeah. Well, back in the vaudeville days, yes, it was Slappy's Beef Bar. No, it was I was just sort of flashing to the very first Odd show, which would have been at the Savoy in Vancouver, which was a great upstairs bar, a meeting place where I would go to hang out with John Mann or any of those people. It was that place and a place called the Town Pump and the Railway Club, those three, that triumvirate of clubs, were the places where I don't know what to do tonight. I'm just going to go there and find a friend, you'll walk in and somebody is there. And the Savoy was our first gig, November 25th, 1987. And Paul Brennan, original drummer in Odds, had his drums a couple weeks earlier burned in a fire at another gig. A hall burnt down and that he was playing, and lost his drums. And none of us had a pot to piss in. So our friend Pat Steward, who later joined Odds, well, has been in Odds now for, I don't know, 26 years, but he loaned Pat these beautiful Ludwig drums, vintage Ludwigs with a giant kick drum, sparkle silver. And so we had these cool drums for our first show. And there was kind of a buzz that night. I mean, people kind of knew we were all the weird person from every band in Vancouver that were finally together. And there was going to be some kind of energy that night. And so it was packed. And it was really exciting. I remember it being a great gig. And when I get excited, I get excited. So I stood on the drum kit, and it was on a riser too. And I stood on the kick drum, and Pat was in the audience. They were his drums. I stood and I was staring at Paul on the kit, and I thought, I'm going to make this Chai Pig level leap right now. I'm just going to go for it. And if I break both my legs, whatever. So I pushed down to get a launch point, and I feel the whole kick drum collapse like an orb underneath me, like go into an ellipse. And then I launched myself off it. I got a lot of air and came down on the stage, but I realized, I turn around and I look, and Pat's just like this. For those of you just listening, it's that face from Edvard Munch's Silent Scream. He was just like, he just shat himself because they were, lovely old vintage drums. And I went, oh my God. And I had that, I hope I didn't break them. Anyway, the drums survived, and Pat's been playing. Pat had 2 different tenures in Bryan Adams' band. And so those very drums are out with Bryan Adams right now playing arenas. They're fine.
They're fine.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, look at that.
Wow, that's yeah. As you're telling the story, I'm like, oh my God, I can see where this is going. So that's wow.
Yeah, you knew I was going to do something bad to those drums when I described them so nicely. See, I'm not professional either.
Not at all. One of the questions we'd love to ask our guests before we wrap things up is, what are you listening to lately? What's in your earbuds, earpods, headphones, whatever, that people should be checking out, new or old?
Well, I'll just go what I was listening to yesterday. Jonathan Stout. He's a swing guitar player. I heard about him on a podcast such as this. And then I just went down listening to his stuff, and I thought he's amazing. But that's, I think, how it is now. It's fractured, and I'm listening to all kinds of things all the time. So I'm a little stymied to come up with a big list.
No, I appreciate that. No. Just even one thing that our listeners can check out and explore and learn. So
it seems a little indulgent, but I rediscovered an album that I worked on recently by Wendy Bird, which would be really obscure. So if you look up Wendy Bird, Natural Wonder, it's a whole bunch of people playing in a room, like 15 people at once. It was cut live like that, and it's all the songs were Jeffrey Hatcher songs. He was in the Big Beat and in the Blue Shadows, and Wendy sang them beautifully. And I just realized how much I loved it. Mm. Sometimes you're actually on something you love.
Nice.
That's Neil Young playing the V, isn't it?
He's playing something.
Oh yeah, I think he's playing the V.
Yeah.
He hated that guitar, but I love it.
I'm actually surprised Karim didn't bring up Neil Young during this podcast.
I was going to ask, play a Neil Young song.
I can tell you a really good Neil Young story.
We're still recording, sure. Craig, so let's go.
Okay. I don't know what to reveal about it. I went to see Neil when he did the Shocking Pinks and Trans together. He started off doing Trans. I've seen him a few times, but that was this where the story came from. And I was in an altered state. And Neil played the Trans thing was amazing. He did that. He did a lot of the hits with people in the darkness around him. the classic players that you would think of. And then he ended with the Shocking Pinks, like a full white suited thing, big rockabilly band. It was fantastic. And during the show, he had an announcer backstage who was interviewing people. And in the intermission, he said he'd do it like a sportscaster. How's it going, Neil? How do you feel? And Neil would say, I think I ate too close to the show, so it was a little bit logy, but it's picking up now. And anyway, it was a really good-hearted and well-executed show. And I was enjoying it on so many levels in an interdimensional way. And my friend, we had got scalp tickets, and he was up in another section, and I was on the floor. And I went to meet him afterwards, and I said, how was it where you were? And he says, great, I was sitting with Neil's family.
Oh.
I said, wow, that's cool, because he has family in Vancouver. And I said, what's that on your leg? We were young. And he said, I don't know. They gave it to me and stuck it on my leg. I said, I think that's a backstage pass. And so he said, really? Well, let's go backstage then. So we went down into the tunnels in the Pacific Coliseum and met this really old, crusty security guy. Just one person there. There was no one else there. And he said, well, you need 2 of those. And I said, well, we had 2 of those, but, mine fell off. I'm feeling terrible. And the guy let us in. So the 2 of us went backstage, and there was nobody there in the dressing rooms. One said Neil Young, one said the Shocking Pinks, and there was a big garbage can in the middle of this landing. And we opened up the garbage can, and inside was ice and beer. So we just started having some beer, and all of a sudden, the band starts coming out of the dressing rooms, and we're holding the beer, and we've got the thing open. And I'm standing there with my program, and because they used to sell programs. And Neil comes out, and all his family are there. And I end up standing in this circle with Neil and his family right beside Neil. And they're talking about what they're going to do tonight and how's everybody doing and stuff. And he looks at me, and I, of course, look kind of crazed. And I asked him if he could sign my program, and he did. And I just had this feeling that I could talk to this guy. And he looked so strange to see in person. I'd never seen a famous person like that right beside me. Someone I had on my poster on my wall that I was, I'd never seen them standing right beside me. And I said, Neil, your head is much bigger in person than it is in pictures. And he paused for a second, and he went, ah! And he just started laughing, and he's slapping me on the back and going, oh my God, and he looks at me and he goes, we're going to go to Fresco's, which is this all night restaurant it's now gone. Speaking of venues that are now gone in Vancouver on Robson Street. And he goes, we're going to go to Fresco's. You want to go to Fresco's? And I go, yeah. And he says, okay, see you there. I didn't go.
Oh,
I didn't go. I figured that was it. And that was my moment. So I capped the story off there, but what a lovely guy. He just died though. Thought that was funny.
Your head looks big.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you told that story, because there's that saying, right? You never want to meet your heroes because they just might disappoint you, and you sort of
oh no,
put me at ease.
Stephen Page has met him a bunch of times and hung out with him and says the same things. Just wonderful guy.
That is awesome. That is so awesome to hear. Craig, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
It's been an honor, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking me. Nice to meet you guys. Hopefully I'll meet you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, hopefully we see you live
yes.
at a show, whether it's here in Toronto or somewhere else. But before you go, just to let people know, go and get the latest album by Odds. You can get that at oddsmusic.com. Crash the Time Machine on vinyl, CD, digital download. Cassette? Is there cassette?
No cassettes.
No.
Saving that for Trans-Canada Highwaymen.
Oh, interesting. And when is
eight track for trans?
Oh, we're already sold out.
It's sold out. Sold out already.
Perfect.
Oddsmusic.com. Our guest has been Craig Northey from Odds. Thank you again for joining us. This has been a pleasure, a blast.
Thanks for having me.